This is the Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast.
The following contest is scheduled for one fall.
Let's go nuts! It's Jimmy Nuts! Drive out with a car!
With your hosts, Mark Martinez.
Remember, just because you're trash doesn't mean you can't do great things.
And the English Professor.
It's called a garbage can, not a garbage cannot.
Hey, this is former WWE superstar Duke, the Dumpster Drosy, and you are listening to the Can Crushers Podcast.
And welcome to another episode of Can Crusher Spotlight. You know these are my favorite. I love the weekly show with the English Professor and the Guru, Chad. But you know me, the host of Can Crushers, Mark Martinez, loves the spotlight. I love sitting down and talking with wrestlers across the nation, actually across the world, as we've talked to some over in Israel as well. So welcome back. I hope everyone is doing well as they can be during this pandemic. Guys, I know you hear us say it over and over, but coming from a garbage man, really, guys, stay home, stay safe, and tie your bags. Tie your garbage bags for us. We don't want to get anything that you might have. You know, wrap up your loose stuff. Put it in garbage bags. That's just going to help out us as garbage men. But we don't need to get into that. You guys have heard about the coronavirus over and over and over. You guys are watching it on TV. You guys are kind of in a little bit of a funk, as my guest this week is. He's in a little bit of a funk. Yeah, he usually rocks out, but, you know, just being quarantined and just staying at home, one half of the Defy Tag Team Champions, one half of 4 minutes of heat, so he's 2 minutes of heat himself. Coming on the show is Ricky Gibson. Guys, I know a lot of you maybe on the East Coast don't know, well, who? You have to look him up. Man, if you're an old school fan like the three of us are in the Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express, you come on. You've been around us long enough that you know where our love is with wrestling. Ricky Gibson is there. He is the old new, or the new old, however you want to say it. He is there. Get on YouTube, type in 4 minutes of heat, watch some of their matches, pay attention to Ricky. Ricky actually tells us in the interview where you can find more wrestling as well. So go and subscribe. Guys, we got a long time yet before we're going to be getting a wrestling show. Let's come to terms. We're going to have a long time before we get the wrestling shows that we're all going to be there. It's true. The peak isn't here of the coronavirus yet. So subscribe to some of these networks and watch something that you normally wouldn't watch. You know, if you're on the East Coast, try something out on the West Coast. If you're on the West Coast, you know, subscribe to IWC. See where Wardlow came from. Britt Baker, Ray Lynn, Calvin Couture. I mean, the names can go on and on about IWC. Come on now. But, you know, reach out to the West Coast now, guys. Watch 4 minutes of heat. God, I am pulling for them once the whole Crockett Cup and everything gets back around, that they get a spot in the Crockett Cup. They're fun. They're amazing to watch. Get on YouTube and watch them. Enough of me ranting right now. Let's check it over to Al Snow so he can tell us about collar and elbow. Guys, I'm wearing my blue meanie shirt right now. I love it. You know how comfortable these tees are. They're fun. The BWO, the Blue World Order shirt just came out. I also have kind of like a Southern, you know, championship one that has the guy holding the belt. It just says collar and elbow wrestling. There's also ones that say support indie wrestling. You got I don't want to say generic because Al will punch me in the face next time I'm down in Louisville to see him. But it just says property of collar and elbow. Guys, they're so much fun and they're comfortable. Reasonably priced as well. So get on collarandelbow.com and buy some shirts, buy some hats, buy some hoodies. Just get this stuff. It supports them as well. And then when you check out, use the promo code CANCRUSHERS. All one word, capital C in can, capital C in Crushers, and you'll get 10% off your order. All right, here comes Al, and then we'll dive into the interview with Ricky Gibson.
Wrestling. A love and a passion we all share. I've started a wrestling brand. The wrestling brand. A brand founded on the aspects of wrestling. Two entities working together to create a product that connect emotionally for people everywhere. Collar and Elbow is the brand. Passion and love for wrestling is the drive. I am Al Snow, and this is Collar and Elbow, the wrestling brand.
And welcome back to Can Crushers. I just want to get into this interview. Guys, I stumbled upon this guy about a year ago, and I saw some singles matches, and I saw that he collects titles. My God, he's got them all over the place. Right now, he is the WCWC Oregon Heavyweight Champion for over 630 days. But what really is defying everything, he is one half of 4 minutes of heat, the Defy Tag Team Champions. Welcome to Can Crushers, Ricky Gibson.
Thank you, my friend. It is great to be on with you guys. I'm super excited to do this interview with you. Been looking forward to it.
Yeah, oh man, Defy Tag Team Champions. That's huge. You and Eddie are just legit killing everybody right now.
Yeah. Oh man, it's Defy has been a wild ride for sure. We got thrown in there right away with War Beasts, one hell of a tag team, and of course the American Guns. And that was quite a painful match, but we came out on top. And then we followed it up with a match with Damien 666 and Pistol Rosas, which was also quite a blast. But both of them were all violence is legal matches, and that weighs a lot on a body.
That does weigh a lot on a body. Before we get into the wrestling, though, this pandemic has hit everybody, and I really want to know, how are you guys doing out there in Oregon? You know, in Pennsylvania, we are getting shut down pretty much more and more each day. What's going on with you guys out there?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much about the same everywhere. Like, I'm surrounded with Oregon, Washington, California, all of which are like everything's shut down now. We're just required today where we need to wear masks if we go outside. I don't know how strictly that's enforced, but I got mine ready to go. But yeah, it's nuts out there.
It really is, Ricky. It really is. We are, I guess I can say, lucky. Our county is, as of taping, the only county in Pennsylvania that doesn't have it. I mean, I don't know if that's yay for us, but it's coming. It's coming, and we had the masks. Our governor said, "Hey, start wearing masks on Friday." So I got them. They're Steeler masks too. So my wife was really excited that I ordered those.
There you go.
So let's do the rewind that we always do here on Can Crusher Spotlight. Who introduced you to wrestling? Mom, Dad, Grandpa? I mean, there's a story of how you found wrestling.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because my dad, when he was a kid, watched wrestling. He grew up in Portland, so they watched Portland wrestling, him and his brother, all the time. And then he grew out of it, and he didn't introduce me to it. I was actually at a babysitter's house, and I don't know why, but I'll remember this vividly for the rest of my life. I was at a babysitter's house. I was probably like 4 years old, and one of the kids that was there flipped through the channels, and for probably like 5 seconds on screen, I saw The Undertaker and Mankind wrestling, and that hooked me. I don't know what it was about it, but I just instantly, I got to see more of that. And it wasn't until a few years later when I got reintroduced to it, I was like, oh, that's what I saw that one time. And it was just a group of friends that watched it, and we all were absolutely, stuck to it.
So these friends, not backyard as you would call it today, you clearly had some matches in the backyard though, right?
Yeah, good story there too. It was really just one friend and I that did this, but we had a trampoline, of course, in the backyard, and my dad was a little bit of a hoarder, so he brought home all sorts of stuff from work and, garage sales or whatnot, and one day, we had an old play structure, and my friend Cody and I built a table out of some just scrap stuff out of the backyard. And I got up on the top of this ladder, this play structure, and I watched my dad drive up the driveway just in time for me to jump off through a table. And luckily, he wasn't too mad about it, because he was a fan as a kid, but we definitely did some dangerous things in the backyard. We never did full matches or record it, but we obviously had fun with each other out there.
Yeah, that sounds like the same thing we did. Well, back in the 80s, there wasn't a VCR that we could buy, so we would just jump off our porches. My mother loved me.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So you mentioned that you were jumping off of things as well. I'm going to guess it. You said Mankind already. He's got to be one of your favorites, correct?
Yeah, growing up, I think Mankind, that Cactus Jack style was a lot of fun to watch. But man, I have so many favorites going through the years. I don't know if I could pinpoint a certain person until I got a lot later in my life when not necessarily a person, but Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat, Sting. Those three stood out in my mind as individual competitors that really kind of played a huge role in how I developed as a wrestler.
And as you got older, I have a comparison that I always bring up with guys on Can Crushers. You were clearly the Rock and Roll Express, the Rockers, the Midnight Express, but you have a little bit of a edge to you. Not edge the wrestler, edge as in asshole once in a while, right?
Yeah. I think you kind of have to in wrestling. You can't sit back and just let people walk all over you. I learned that from an early age when I first started, and it was so easy for people to take advantage of you. And whether it was just your kind heart, hey, I'll give you a ride, no big deal, or yeah, I'll spot you some money for dinner or whatever. That got old real quick, so you kind of had to change it up a bit. I wouldn't say I'm an asshole, but you definitely have to have a little bit of that in you.
Right, and I didn't mean full-fledged. I just, full-fledged. So
yeah.
What we're getting there? What gave you the big push to be the professional wrestler? Was it that one day in college you're sitting there and going, not gonna do this. I'm going to wrestling school.
Yeah, so I started wrestling when I was 16. I went to I was making websites back in the day. I just kind of learned how to make websites on my own, and I would develop fan websites or whatnot. And I went to a Portland wrestling taping, and one of the referees there wanted a website done. I was like, yeah, man, I'd be more than willing to help you out with that. And he's like, yeah, there's a place in Hillsboro that does pro wrestling school. And it was about an hour from my home, but the very next class they had after talking to Mark, I went out and joined wrestling school. And so, yeah, at 16 years old, I was still wrestling in high school. I wrestled for a couple more years there, but man, every single day in class, I would sit there and think, this is not for me. This class is not for me. And I need to be in the ring.
And you've been in the business for about 15 years now. Your first match that's dubbed all over the internet is March 20th, 1995, right? No, not that one. I have the date wrong. It's March 20th something.
Yeah, it was probably 2005. So
yeah.
I started the very first day of training was May 6th, 2004. And it wasn't that much longer. It was probably 6 months or so before I had my first match. Which match did you see that would have given you that date? Do you remember?
Is terrible at math, so it was 95. It was 2005. It was Cosmic River against Cowboy Tex.
Oh yeah, that was my very first. That was my very first match for one of the companies I wrestled for, and that was the West Coast Wrestling Connection. That was my very first match there, but I'd actually been wrestling for probably 6 or 7 months before that match took place. But it was like student shows. So the gym is actually a funny story. The gym was in a flea market, and every single Saturday they would have the flea market going on, and they'd also put on free wrestling shows. So we set up the gym or the ring outside, and we just wrestled as people were walking through shopping for, CDs or old VHS or old clothes, anything.
Did you get followers there, like that would just actually come out for wrestling, or was it because it's two different types of a crowd?
Yeah. So back in 2004, 2005, there wasn't a lot of wrestling going on. There's 3 companies that were around. One was Portland Wrestling. That was kind of the big leagues in Oregon. Another one was PMPW, which has since stopped running. And that's kind of like the intermediate. And then Tito's Gym was just for students, and occasionally some of the guys from the other 2 would drop by and have matches and help us out. But yeah, we had several like avid followers that went to all 3. It was never a ton, maybe 10 to 15 people that were there for the wrestling, and then everyone else was just there for the flea market. But yeah, there was definitely people that were there every single Saturday just for a free show.
Nice. We would be there. We would definitely be there for the free show.
Oh, yeah.
So we also like you to give your props to your trainers, because without your trainers, you wouldn't be where you're at now. So I always make sure you guys tell us about your trainers. Who were they, and how did they impact you?
I've had quite a few different trainers. So Tito's Gym was kind of famous for whoever swang by the gym at the time would run a class. So Tito Carrion was the owner of the gym, and he wrestled in the 40s for WWF. He wrestled through Puerto Rico and Mexico a lot. And when he retired from everything, he just wanted to run a gym that was a way to keep young kids, youth, off of drugs and alcohol and off of the streets. So he let people go in there and do boxing, do weightlifting, and professional wrestling. The guy that I attribute most of my training to is Jeremy Blanchard. He's kind of a local legend around here. He'd been wrestling for probably 30 years total at this point. And he was the guy that really showed me the ropes, started taking me along to shows, helping me get my name out there a little bit more. Through the times, Tony Kazina came through there. Davey Richards came through there. There was a ton. Later in life, the Grappler Len Denton came through the West Coast Wrestling Connection and did some training for us. But man, we had all sorts of people stop by. Roddy Piper lives in Hillsborough, so he was right down the road. He came through there once or twice to not really like as a trainer, but was just there, gave us some tips as we did some stuff. It was pretty cool.
Piper, we met Piper about 2 weeks before he passed, and I can't, no disrespect to any wrestler that I talk to, but he is the most sincere person in this world. He took the time. There was 100 tickets sold for his autographs, and he took about a half an hour with each person. When I walked up to him, Ricky, he was like, "Hey, how's your wife and kids?" I've never met him before in my life, but it was like talking to a cousin or, something. He was just that genuine that he loved fans.
Yeah, he absolutely was. I've never seen him. I've seen him be mean to one person. That's because they mess with his money. But everyone else, like any wrestler that's ever crossed his path, it was the most genuine, the nicest guy you could possibly imagine.
So you have some pretty big feuds with some pretty big people that we know. The big one that I always see, you've been in the ring so much with Gangrel. It's unbelievable the feuds that you had with Gangrel. Let's talk about him and why Gangrel. Talk about opposites attracting.
Yeah, you want to talk about the good guys in wrestling. Gangrel. So let me back up a little bit. When I first came to, when I came back to the West Coast Wrestling Connection, Gangrel was one of the first guys that I started getting in the ring with. And I've never met someone that works harder in professional wrestling and has done more. Like he's a guy that has literally been to the top of the world in wrestling, and he still comes out every single night and gives it his all. It's really easy for guys like that or someone that's been through WWE or WCW or one of the big companies. It's really easy for them to just kind of phone it in a little bit. And that's not Gangrel. Gangrel is the guy that will go out there every single time and just kick ass and take names. So, yeah, he was the first real feud that I had at the WCWC. And, man, we went several months. We did singles for a long time, probably 6 or 7 months. And then he got a tag team partner and I got a tag team partner. And his was Sinn Bodhi or Kizarny from WWE. Yeah, so we did several rounds as a tag team as well. But yeah, that guy's a hell of a wrestler.
I was going to bring up Sinn Bodhi because Sinn Bodhi is, he always lingers around OVW, and we have kind of a connection with OVW. He was the Anarchy champion there. We've talked to him a little bit off the air. Same thing I know you're going to say about Gangrel. Sinn Bodhi's on the same page, though, right? He's just there to help the youngsters.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's one that, man, I could listen to talk for hours. He has such a different mind for pro wrestling, and it's funny, you can see him working. Like, you can just watch him think of how things are going to play out and what's going to happen, what's possible. And he actually was someone that helped me develop as the Rock God when we were doing some shows in Paragon, in Vegas for Paragon Pro Wrestling. He was an agent behind the scenes, and he gave me quite a few tips and tricks and really helped me along the way.
Two more I want to bring up, and one is the current NWA TV champion. You shared the ring with Zicky Dice. Man, you two should be a tag team.
Zicky Dice came to a show in Washington probably about a year ago for Without a Cause, and instantly him, Eddie, and I hit it off. And it was several months before we spoke again, but we did a little tour of Washington, 3 shows in a row, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We rode together, and I talked to that guy every single day. We keep each other accountable, him, Eddie, and I, and then Levi Shapiro as well. I don't know if you could be any closer friends than the three of us are right now.
That's great. That really is. And the last one I want to bring up, because she's one of my favorites. You shared the ring with Sue Young. She is unbelievable. Saw her at WrestleCade, saw her a couple other different places. Always see her on Impact, TNA, whatever it's called this week. How demonic is she really?
Sue Young is a different character for sure. I've wrestled, it's either 2 or 3 matches now. I can't, maybe even, I think it was 3. She's different for sure. Her character is definitely based off of some realism, but
yeah, no doubt.
But behind the scenes, she is a very sweet lady. Yeah, she's awesome. We had a lot of fun in there.
So, all right, let's tell everybody now that we just got this stuff out of the way. We got the stuff out of the way. Let's tell everybody who Ricky Gibson really is. You started as the Cosmic River, and you've transitioned into the Rock God. How does that happen?
Yeah, so when I was 16 years old, I started wrestling for the company PMPW, and one of the guys that was writing the show, the booker, said, at 16 years old, we can't put you in front of a crowd, so we're going to put you behind a mask, and we don't want anyone to know who you are. So I went behind a mask. It wasn't as Cosmic River. It was actually as a masked German, just a random jobber character, and I put on a mask. I wrestled, some of the big guys that were in the company, and that was about it. When the WCWC came around, he also thought that I looked too young to be a pro wrestler. So I was quite the baby face, in a legitimate fashion where I didn't have facial hair, man. My hair was short. I looked like I was a 16-year-old. So we did the mask thing, and I couldn't stand wrestling behind a mask anymore. Like I didn't want the distraction when I was wrestling. So I started wrestling for a company called DOA Pro Wrestling, which I still wrestle for today. And they decided, like, hey, let's get you out of a mask. Let's do something that's more you. And Ricky Gibson is 100% who I am. I think every shoot interview that you listen to, all the wrestlers would tell you your character is just you turned up to 11. And that couldn't be truer. Me, I'm a pretty laid back, normal guy, but everything you see as Ricky Gibson is truly who I am. Like there's no exaggeration to that at all.
Nice. You collect titles as well. I'm looking at a list. DOA Tag Team Champions 3 times. The WCWC Tag Team Champion twice. The Legendary Championship at WCWC 3 times. You're the Lightning Champion there. And as I said at the beginning, over 630 days right now as heavyweight champion. And you're kicking ass and taking names. And then, I forgot about the Defy Tag Team Champions again with your partner. You guys are just gold. How is that happening?
Yeah, we try hard. One of the things that I love about pro wrestling is there's no limits to what you can do. A lot of the times people get bogged down by like, hey, I can't travel, I can't make it across the globe, I can't do this or that. And Eddie and I have quite a similar idea of just, I don't care what it takes, we're going to get out there and do it. And so, we train all the time, we talk all the time. We get in the ring, we do what it takes, and so many people have excuses of why they can't do something or, what gets in their way. And just at the end of the day, none of that matters. Like, all that matters is, are you doing it or not? And that's kind of the philosophy that we hold together. And I can't see it slowing down other than this coronavirus. I can't see anything slowing us down other than that.
Yeah, I was just going to bring up, on a normal day, sans coronavirus, how much gym time are you putting in? How much film time are you putting in? You and Eddie just bonding and just hanging out, getting stuff together. How much wrestling is truly in your life?
Oh, man, wrestling is, I'd say 90% of my life, pre-corona. Literally every day is in the gym. So normally our travel schedule is a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sometimes it leaks into Monday. But when we travel, we'll hit up the gym wherever it is. There's a Crunch Fitness just about everywhere now. So we'll hit up the gym together. We'll tan together, stay in a hotel, talk wrestling, watch wrestling. It's nonstop. As far as like how much time I spend in the gym just depends on the day and how much time I have. So I'll wake up. I normally hit cardio first thing in the morning. I've got a little bike in my room here. And then normally I'll go to the gym to lift, but right now I actually converted my guest bedroom into a weight room. So I'll go in there and lift for an hour or two. And then the rest of the day is just spent thinking about wrestling. I spend a lot of time on social media, talking with other wrestlers, watching other wrestlers, see what kind of content is out there, doing videos or short little things. Man, it's all wrestling.
That's a great point. You transitioned right into where I was going today. Are you taking your studies, as I do my air quotes, from wrestling today, or are you going back to Smoky Mountain or, something like that back, watching, again, I'll bring up the Rock and Roll Express or the Road Warriors? Or are you pulling from the Young Bucks, or do you gel it together?
We absolutely gel it together. I think I watch a lot more older stuff than Eddie does. Eddie watches a lot of like the mid 90s, the early 2000s. And I tend to watch a lot more of like the 80s, the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. But we absolutely mix it together. And then there's obviously stuff that's current today. I have a hard time watching stuff that's current today and trying to utilize it in a repertoire. Like, no one wants to see a copycat. But a lot of the times there's stuff that's done in the early 90s, early 80s that no one remembers. And so when you can do stuff like that and mix that in there, it seems fresh again. So if I'm watching something from, like you said, the Young Bucks, if they did it last week on Thursday night or Wednesday night, and then someone comes to a show and sees us do it on that Saturday night, like, we're the guys that copied them. Right. Versus if we're doing something from 20 years ago, no one's thinking of like, oh, these guys are the knockoff version. We never want that to be a thought in their minds.
No, you don't. Again, I don't know. I really don't know about the West Coast, East Coast bias that we have going on right now. But I want you to tell everybody who 4 Minutes of Heat really are. If they haven't found you guys, they're living in a cave because it's all over YouTube. Tell everybody who and how 4 Minutes of Heat take control of the matches and kind of who you're built around from back in the day.
Yeah, I think anyone that watches would probably pretty quickly see a good, like, Rock and Roll Express or Midnight Express within 4 Minutes of Heat. Who we are, like, we like to have fun. I think that if we're not having fun, there's no reason of doing this. But we're the team that likes to have fun, but we're also going to do what it takes to take the advantage and win the match. We like to be creative. We like to do things that make us stand out from others. And I don't think there's any limit to what we would do to win a match or be successful.
So you got a little bit of Eddie Guerrero in you then as well.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, Eddie Guerrero is by far Eddie Pearl's favorite wrestler. So I think that there's a good majority of what he does that is in dedication to Eddie.
Do you get time to watch? We're not going to lie about it. Our favorite wrestling right now is NWA because we are the 40-year-old men that have real jobs and do this as fun, but we continue to bring it out to everybody. NWA right now, well, not right now, but, it was the hottest thing going today, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We heard of NWA starting back up. Brian Hebner actually used to come out to West Coast Wrestling Connection a couple of years ago, and we stayed in contact with him. And man, he's been talking about it coming back for a long time now. So he kind of got us to see what was coming up. And then obviously when Zicky got the opportunity to go out there, we've been a huge fan, and we both watched the show whenever it was on. We watched the replays. A lot of the guys that we've wrestled with have been out there as well. Royce Isaacs was the guy that I wrestled with back in WCWC and Paragon Pro Wrestling. And man, I think if anyone's not watching NWA, they're missing out on some phenomenal wrestling that's really classic. It keeps the authenticity of professional wrestling while still, being new and being innovative,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. All right, let's take a little bit of break from wrestling, as we always just ask 3 random questions that we just write shit down, Ricky, and
All right.
you get asked it. It's just out of a hat. So number 1, what is something that you like the most that most people don't?
Something that I like the most?
Yeah, something you like that most people don't like. Like, are you a big fan of, I don't know, anything, just in your life in general?
Here it is. This is the most controversial topic that we'll ever have.
Yes.
Both Eddie and I agree that Batman Forever is the greatest Batman movie of all time.
Oh, my God. All right, why? Why do you say this?
It's the perfect amount of serious and campy, and got some great performances with literally every character that's in there. Tommy Lee Jones did phenomenal. Jim Carrey. I mean, it was something different.
Okay, you're gonna get one of the other guys probably to tweet you or Instagram you or something, because he lives and dies Batman. Sometimes he thinks he is Batman, and it's only the original. Actually, it's the TV shows with the boom and the pow.
Oh yeah,
that's the real Batman.
No, I know how controversial it is, because one road trip I tweeted that it was the best movie ever, and I think it's probably my most argued tweet that I've ever had.
This is not one of the questions, but I also see that you like a certain trilogy better than anything else, and my God, how can you say that Back to the Future is the best trilogy out there?
I grew up on Back to the Future, and the reason I tweeted that last night is because I have 2 children. One's 8 and one's 4. And I introduced them to it last night, and it made my day to relive my childhood watching those movies.
So you've just been showing them a lot of 80s movies in the quarantine time.
I definitely do.
Is there anything we're clearly not on topic anymore, but it doesn't matter. Is there anything that they've liked? Do they love Back to the Future, or did you show them Rocky yet?
No, I haven't shown them Rocky yet. That was one of the first ones. They're really into like the Disney movies. We have the Disney Plus for them, so yeah, they're seeing a lot of that stuff. But I wouldn't say that they loved Back to the Future. Like I think both of them kind of wandered off at some point during it and came back. But it's just fun. It's fun introducing them to it. Telling them the story of when I first saw it, and I was way too young to actually see it. And my 4-year-old's probably way too young to see it as well, but that was fun.
Oh, hell with it. That's a great story. What's one bad habit that you're trying to get rid of?
I tried, and I was actually very successful for a while, but I'm trying to quit drinking Red Bull. But I can't. I'm like addicted, and it's like this running joke between Eddie and I, but it was probably 2 years ago now. We were on a road trip, and I was like, hey, I'm not going to drink Red Bull at all. And it was probably 4 o'clock in the morning when we stopped at a gas station, and I went in and I went in to grab one, and he's like, oh, dude, you said you weren't going to? And I snapped at him, and I probably would have thrown him through the store if he would have said no. But I just recently started drinking Red Bull again, and I'm addicted to it. I can't quit.
That you're reading my notes through the phone, because that's actually one of the things I was going to ask, why Red Bull hasn't sponsored you yet, because that's the only thing I've seen you drink on social media. That's it.
It's funny. Actually, Red Bull did sponsor us for a little while. We knew a gal locally that was a distributor of Red Bull, and she sent us on several road trips with cases of Red Bull. So it dried up now, so we don't have that anymore. But I've definitely been a sponsor, been sponsored by them before.
So the one social media clip I was talking about is you actually got shut down from buying Red Bull from the clerk behind the counter. He had the pictures of you were all over the West Coast. I was shocked.
I know. I had to quit, and the word got out, and I couldn't do it anymore.
This next question, take it with a grain of salt, literally. If there was a sandwich named after you, what would be on it?
Ooh, that's a good question. Man, it'd have to have bacon on it. And I'm not one of those like obsessed with bacon, but I do think that bacon belongs on just about every sandwich. Let's say like it'd be hot. It would have bacon. It would probably have like some sort of steak, like a Philly steak, like real thin slice, carne asada or something like that. And cheese, of course, and chipotle sauce, some sort of chipotle, like a mayonnaise or aioli or something.
Nice. All right, I could eat that. What's your favorite go-to sandwich joint?
I'm pretty basic when it comes to sandwich joints because I like to go easy with it. I don't know if they're out on the East Coast, but Jersey Mike's has been really popular around here lately. They make some good sandwiches. Subway's, super basic, super easy, but we actually don't get to sandwich joints that often because Eddie hates sandwiches. So I have to convince him if we're ever going to stop at a sandwich joint.
Okay. If you weren't a professional wrestler and you were a teacher, what class would you teach? That's actually from the English professor himself.
Oh, which class would I teach? I guess I'd have to say history. I think there's a lot in history that's very intriguing and fascinating. I don't know if that would necessarily involve me being a wrestler and being a teacher, but I think history is always a fantastic class.
Okay, yeah, because it never changes, right? Once it's set, it can't change.
Yeah, but there's always stuff that you don't know about. Different things that have caused wars that one side maybe didn't talk about, or different stories that you don't hear about until you're older. It's very, very fascinating.
And finally, during this quarantine time, what is the most exciting thing about your daily routine?
Whew. Man, nothing is exciting about my daily routine right now. I think, I've got nothing that will excite you about my routine right now. I wake up, I do cardio, I eat breakfast, I'll work out later, and in between I spend a lot of time on social media. So I guess maybe the most exciting thing is we just started a Patreon channel that is a lot of fun, just staying up to date with, doing funny videos, or just trying to stay relevant in a time where there's nothing else going on.
You brought up the Disney Plus with your kids, so you have to be watching a lot of that, right?
They watch a lot of that. They have their own playroom where that's on a lot. In the living room, it's a mixture of just about anything. But there's definitely Disney shows that I'll watch when we're eating dinner or whatever when they're around. So yeah, there's all sorts of stuff that comes on the TV right now.
Okay, two more weirdo questions, as we're pretty much calling them anymore. What is one of your guilty pleasures?
I would say right now it's about sour. What's it called? I can't think of the name of it now. It's been a while since I've had them. The Sour Patch Kids heads. They're like the two flavors in one.
I know what you mean. Yeah. So candy.
Guilty pleasure right now. Every road trip would start with a pack of those.
All right. God, you just blew my mind with candy. And what's one of your nerd things? Are you a video gamer? Clearly, you're into music. I mean, what's one of the nerd things that we really don't know about you?
I'm not really so much of a nerd as far as content goes. One of probably the nerdiest things about me is I studied in high school. I studied computer science, which is like developing apps and doing websites and coding and things like that. And I actually worked for Intel for a year while I was training to be a wrestler. And that's kind of the nerdiest thing about me is that I spent a lot of time coding on the computer.
That's straight up nerd. That takes being a wrestling fan or video gamer or anything to the level that is beyond.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to do anything now because it's been way too long since I've studied it. But yeah, that definitely made me a nerd when I was a teen.
Let's transition back over into some wrestling stuff as you have this pregame ritual where you guys are always stretching your necks out, and you got caught one time from one of the biggest guys that stretches his necks out during matches and everything, D'Lo Brown. It didn't look well on social media. What happened?
D'Lo Brown was an agent for two different companies that we worked for. One was the West Coast Wrestling Connection. The other one was Paragon Pro Wrestling. And D'Lo is one of those guys that I looked up to once I started wrestling, and he started coming out here as an agent. He's helped us a lot developing ourselves, developing our talent. And, we were doing a lot of those videos at the time, the real short 15-second videos. And we're just trying to think of some things that were funny and fun. And he actually suggested that one to us that we filmed. And it was a pleasure being able to do a little short video with D'Lo and getting that out there. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it looked fun. It looked like he could barely keep a straight face as he was walking by. He had to be cracking up. So yeah.
Yep.
This is a point where I usually ask you guys, what the hell's going on? Promote what's going on. And this is the sad part. Like, I know everybody's shut down, but do you have anything in the hopper, maybe, hoping for like June or July that you can spill on us that maybe you're going to make a trek to the East Coast, or maybe, I know it's all maybes right now, Ricky, but do we have anything?
Yeah, so some stuff that's kind of in the works right now, depending on how things look, Texas in May, but that's, the closer we get to the end of April, the least likely, or the less likely that's looking. June, possibly, we could see Chicago. There's always some chance of some other stuff that, I won't say until things are more concrete, but we're really looking forward to some stuff in July and August with Defy and Prestige. Prestige Pro Wrestling does the Roseland show. The first one we were supposed to wrestle the Rock and Roll Express, and they unfortunately had a different show pop up that they had to be at with New Japan. We wound up taking that time to run in on Rhino and Bull James. This last Prestige show that just got canceled was actually supposed to be with Warhorse and Danhausen. And I don't know if that match is still going to take place, but they have another Roseland show planned in July, as well as some other stuff. Defy is planning on doing 3 big shows at the end of July, early August. That should be a lot of fun. Other than that, man, everything is wait and see,
Yeah, it's a rough time right now for sure. Tell people, 1, your social medias, and 2, do any of the promotions you're working with right now have a streaming service that maybe they're like, man, I heard of 4 Minutes of Heat, but YouTube's not glorifying them enough. I need to see some more real matches. Is there any streaming sites out there that we can all catch on to?
Yeah, if you aren't subscribed to IWTV or Internet Wrestling TV right now, I highly, highly suggest it. You can see all sorts of stuff through Defy is now on there. We see Without a Cause, Prestige Wrestling. You'll see a lot of that on there. I highly recommend it. You can see a bunch of different shows that Eddie and I were on for that IWTV. That's like the one where you got to go check out. And there's, companies all over the world that are doing that. West Coast Pro Wrestling, GCW, Pretty much any of the big companies right now are leaning towards IWTV. Pretty inexpensive monthly fee. So if you need wrestling, that's definitely the place to go right now. As far as our social media goes, you can find me on Facebook, Ricky Gibson. My Instagram is rockgod_Ricky_Gibson. And Twitter is @RockinRickyG. And you can find links to Eddie from all of those sites as well. We have our merch website at 4minutesofheat.square.site, as well as a Pro Wrestling Tees store, Pro Wrestling Tees /wrestlers/4MH. But yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff out there you can check out and see.
So my question to you is, who was the best of the Rock and Roll Express? Was it Ricky Morton or was it Robert Gibson?
Oh, man, they both played such a pivotal part.
What a shitty answer. That's a horrible PC answer.
It was a PC answer, but you didn't let me finish.
Okay.
I would say that Ricky Morton was the better of the two, but man, they both had such a positive impact on me as a wrestler.
Yeah, they sure did. You can see it. You can see it through and through. 15 plus years in the business. What advice do you have for, a little Robert Morton that's going to come up and say, "Hey, how can I get into this business?"
I think getting into this business is fairly easy nowadays. Find a reputable school. Don't go to just any Joe Blow doing a wrestling school, but go to someone that's accredited. Al Snow does some great things down at OVW, FSW in Vegas. You can find good quality pro wrestling schools, preferably by someone that has made a name or made money in the sport of pro wrestling. But the biggest advice I can give anyone is take care of your body. It's so easy to be a wrestler and to just go do the thing, but after 15 years, you'll wake up sore every day if you don't take care of your body. So that's the biggest single piece of advice I can give.
And I want two. As a singles wrestler, what is your dream match? And then as 4 minutes of heat, what is your dream match? But I want stipulations for both of them and where.
Ooh, okay. My dream match tag team will eventually take place. I know that because I trust Prestige Wrestling. I want to wrestle the Rock and Roll Express in Portland at the Roseland Theater. It's one of my favorite venues that I've ever worked at or ever been in. So that's definitely the tag team match is against the Rock and Roll Express. And that will happen someday soon. I don't know when, but someday. As far as singles, man, it's been a long time since I've thought about like a dream singles match. Let's see. I think it would be foolish to say that it wouldn't be against someone that has a major title in a company or meaningful title or meaningful position somewhere. I think a Cody Rhodes for AEW would be a phenomenal singles match. If I have to pick one, let's leave it with that. Cody Rhodes. Man, where? Let's say somewhere in Vegas because I just love that city. So Cody Rhodes in Vegas.
Okay, all right. Any stipulation in either of those matches? Like, do you want a racket on a pole match with the Rock and Roll Express, or do you want a fight for a tiger match with Cody? Anything like that?
You know what? It would have to be if there is a stipulation, mullet versus mullet.
Yes.
A hair match for Rock and Roll Express, of course. Cody Rhodes in a strap match would be killer.
I agree. That strap match with him and MJF recently stole the show. And finally, did you this past weekend get a chance to watch WrestleMania?
Unfortunately, I did not. I caught a lot of the replays of the clips that people have been posting, but I did not sit down to watch the show.
I was going to ask you about the Firefly Funhouse match and how much.
I'm curious. What was your opinion on that?
We watching it live, not understanding it. I'm a little slow when it comes to the storytelling and technology. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I had a break today at work, so I pulled it back up and I watched it. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal the way they told the story about Cena's career and everything. This might be the last time, spoiler alert, this might be the last time you see John Cena.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It was unbelievable. Well played, WWE.
Yeah, that's actually one of the thoughts that I had about WrestleMania this year. People talk about how weird it is to have no audience, but talk about being able to produce a perfect show with no concerns about not being able to edit for the live audience. I think they had a great opportunity to do some very creative things like the Boneyard match or the Firefly. That was some creativity that they couldn't have had with the live audience. So definitely kudos to them.
Yeah, kudos to them for taking 12 hours and just having people forget about what's going on throughout the world.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right, Ricky, I know that you have to go to nope, you don't have to go to the gym. You don't have to go party. You might have to feed your kids or something, though, right?
They might be hungry by now, but who knows?
Who knows? I want to thank you for coming on Can Crushers. And any final thoughts that you want to spew out to the world that might not know Ricky Gibson yet? Tell them why.
Why? If you want to see innovative, creative, and most of all, if you want to have fun watching pro wrestling, check out 4 Minutes of Heat.
Yeah, without a doubt. Couldn't say it any better. Ricky, once again, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you all so much for listening.
First and foremost, let me say, I'm getting a little bit better with the comparisons. He didn't say no to who I said he reminds us of. Yeah, maybe I'm getting better. Yeah. Man, the stories. I've dove in to learn about Ricky a little bit in the last, couple months, and then reached out to him on the old intraweb, as we say, and we set this up in the flea market story. Just doing the training at flea markets and everything. I wish that would happen around my neck of the hoods. I would definitely be there all the time, and him just being, you have a following, but just wrestling with people not even really paying attention. That boggles my mind, yet it's cool. It really is. Flair, Steamboat, Mankind, yeah, come on. You can see it in Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express, completely right. And I love how he pretty much said the same thing I did about Piper. Meeting Roddy Piper was one of my fondest memories in wrestling, without a doubt. I love Al Snow. I love, Britt Baker, all these guys that, we continue to name and we talk about and everything. But to echo pretty much the same thing I said about Roddy Piper, it just shows how much of a true legend Roddy was and how he cared for each and every one of us, Can Crusher Nation, and extend out more and more. Just tongue-tied thinking about Roddy Piper. Back to the Future, really, that's the best trilogy Ricky can come up with. I don't know, but guys, reach out to Ricky. Ask him some questions if you want to on social media. Kind of just. They're looking for stuff to do. You heard him. What is the best thing he's doing right now? Watching Disney Plus with his kids. Really. They're looking for stuff to do. They want to reach out and talk to their fans. And that's why we love doing this part on Can Crushers. In case, I'm not saying you forgot about them, but saying, hey man, they're just normal human beings like us. They love talking. You guys hear me over and over. I love talking. I could just talk in front of this mic for hours, and I do most of the time, and I ramble a lot. But these guys want to reach out. These guys want to talk to fans. They want to, I don't want to stay relevant, because they are relevant, but they just want to be there for you. And some of them, most of them, will talk to you and guide you through something if you're going through something. They're people, guys. They really are. And Ricky was great. I need to push for him to get over the East Coast. I really do. Maybe talk to Tracy Myers and get him to WrestleCade. Talk to Justin Plummer, get him to IWC. Maybe Al can bring him over to Louisville at OVW. We need to get 4 minutes of heat over here. Or after this whole pandemic, maybe the wife, the kid, and me head over to Oregon to see some wrestling. I would love that. I know I'd have 2 more people coming with me. The English professor and Chad would definitely make it over. I don't know if I can make the car trip with all of them, though. So we're flying. We gotta fly. All right, guys. Again, another great interview here on Can Crusher Spotlight. I want to thank Ricky once again for coming on the show. Man, we're going to stay in touch with you to see what's going on. And again, when you make it closer to our neck of the woods so we can meet in the middle. Guys, if you want to hear anybody on Can Crushers, reach out to them and say, hey, I know this podcast that loves talking to wrestlers. They love it. Give them our email, which is cancrushers69@gmail.com, or have them find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. All our handles are really easy. It's @cancrushers69. Get us there. We'll reach out. We'll set something up. We'll chat wrestling pretty much with anybody. We really will. We love it. Sometimes it's me alone. Sometimes you have, other people. We love chatting wrestling. We love getting the backstory of these guys and gals and how they got into the business and why they love it so much. So head over there and do all that for us. You can also head over to ratethispodcast.com/cancrushers and give us some feedback. Tell me how much I don't shut up. Tell me how you like the English professor or Chad better on our weekly shows. Whatever. Feedback's feedback. We like to know what you guys think. And once again, remember, just because you're trash doesn't mean you can't do great things. It's called a garbage can, not a garbage cannot. See you this weekend.